Hey guys, it's Rhett from the 100 Acre Wood Highlands. It has been brutally hot and dry this summer, but there is some rain in the forecast for this coming week. We have a chance for 3 to 4 inches of rain, and so before that rain gets here, we are having some dirt work done on the pond to see if we can dig this thing out a little bit bigger, make it a little bit better, so that way the cows will have another cool spot to get into. So we're gonna go check out what they've been doing on it, talk about this pond a little bit, and see some of the action with this equipment. So this pond right here was actually built by my dad with just a tractor that had a box blade only. It didn't even have a front end loader. And really it was just a big ditch. There was kind of a big drainage ditch from the road right here. And at one point in the ditch, we just kind of piled up a bunch of dirt eventually and made a little pond. And it has actually held water fairly good for the last 10 years. And this is the first time that it has gone dry since then. So I got in here a few weeks ago with the tractor, tried to dig up some with it, but my little 4120, it's not particularly heavy, doesn't have a whole lot of horsepower. And I would scoop up a bucket full, and if I got a full bucket full of mud on that tractor, even with the box blade on the back, it would tip the tractor up to where I really didn't have a lot of traction. So it was kind of slow going getting the dirt out of here. These guys are the same crew that came and did the forestry mulcher through the woods so that we could get to the back part of the property and be able to access it with the Ranger on the tractor, and just kind of opened it up a little bit. That way we could get back there. And you know, sometimes calves, they go off in the woods, and you know, or cows go off in the woods to have their calves, and it's hard to find them. And so we saw that they were building some ponds nearby, and so I reached out to them. They said we can be there on Friday. So we got a little some kind of track hoe and some kind of skid steer type deal, and they are slowly expanding this pond. We have had the weirdest year with our ponds. It went from flooding this spring to where I don't know how many inches we got, but it was all in just a couple of days. And the big pond down at the bottom of the valley right there was actually overflowing past its spillway. Couldn't even get down the driveway to get out of the property. To now it's several feet low and looks cruddy. Fishing's been terrible. I'm hoping that it will get a little bit better filled up. This pond probably won't be big enough to have any fish in it, but it could at least be another cool spot the cows can get into, collect and hold a little bit of water. This drought's been really tough on a lot of farmers needing hay. We were able to purchase a semi-load of hay from north of Tulsa, some town called Talala. But it was the most expensive hay I've ever bought by the time you paid shipping to get it down here. But it's just, it's hard to find. We were fortunate last year to have our pastures baled, and that provided about 3/4 of our need last year. This year, wanted to have the pastures baled, but we were afraid if we had it baled, we'd have to cut the grass so short in order to get enough that what was left would just get fried in these 100+ days, and the cows wouldn't have anything to graze on right then. And so we went ahead and bought that semi-load just to kind of have some assurance that we'd have enough to get through the winter, but we're still probably just a few bales shy of what we would like to have. And the pastures down in the valley are still kind of green down in those low spots, but the weeds are so bad right now that it's really not worth baling. So the plan on this little pond is this will be the dam. We've got a tin horn here that'll be the overflow drainage on it. It will kind of end up being somewhere right here at this middle of this pond dam. That way when it gets really full, it'll be able to drain down into this little creek, which will lead on into the bigger pond. So they'll work on the dam probably last after they've got some of this dug out a little bit. All right, well, the guys finished digging the pond out on Friday about 8 o'clock. They had some equipment trouble, so it took them a little longer than they expected. But now it is Sunday, and all week long, the meteorologists in Oklahoma have predicting 3 to 5, 4 to 6 inches of rain. It was just going to be like downpour all day, maybe a couple of days. And now that we're actually here, the storm has moved further south, and it looks like southern Oklahoma and North Texas are getting some much needed rain, but now our chances of rain are more like an inch for today. So it's just kind of barely sprinkling. So I wanted to come and show you guys the end product of the pond. And you know, it may be next spring before this thing fills up, but it looks much better than it had in the past. You guys can see the cows have already investigated a bunch of cow pies down here in the bottom of the pond, but he basically extended the pond dam on around over there. We put a tin horn drain over on that end, and it continues around that side. And the hope is this kind of drainage area right here, there's kind of 2 gullies, that it will catch the runoff. You know, we kind of looked in the transit and stuff, and up to the tin horn is going to be just shy of about 6 foot deep. So not a massive pond, not a super deep pond, probably not even a pond we would really put any fish in, but I think it will be a good pond for the cows to be able to get some water, get cooled down in, and slow down some of this runoff that leads down to our big pond down there. So on the other side of this tin horn is a little drainage ditch that leads down and takes it to kind of some terraces that eventually lead the water down to that big pond down there. The last several years in the spring, we have had more issues with flooding than we have really with drought. And so I'm hoping that this will collect water, fill up, and slow down some of the runoff that goes to the big pond, and be another good little water hole. And maybe eventually someday it would be cool to be able to segregate pastures into different fields and do some like rotational grazing. I know there's a lot of big agricultural programs that do that. They move cows from pasture to pasture. That way there's pastures that have the ability to rest and recover before they're grazed again. We really don't have an easy way to do that right now, and one of those reasons is there's not an available water source in all the different areas of the pasture. So, you know, we have a property up on the hill where we have our heifers right now and the cows that we want to segregate and keep away from the bull. And then we have the larger farm here where the rest of the cows are. And other than those 2 big fields, we don't have a lot of smaller sub pastures. So this could be one step leading towards, you know, future plans of doing something like that someday. Another thing we thought about doing would be to put in some like solar powered water wells. I would love to have some of those. That way we're able to get some better fresh water to the cows and not have to have electricity ran out to those just to get the water to pump. So we'll kind of come down here and see what it looks like. So, nice gradual slope coming in. We didn't want anything that was like too steep where the cows could walk off and be in deeper water than they anticipated. The hope is that cows would kind of enter in from the shallow end and work their way down. That way they're not walking over this dam and eroding it. And so the guy who built it suggested, you know, one way to do that is we could build just a little fence line just right down this dam that would prevent the cows from coming in from this angle. Because that was one of the problems we had before, was the cows like to come in right here. And so there were big gullies that they had wore down in the pond dam from walking in and out over and over and over again. So I might run a a few T-posts and a couple of strands of barbed wire just to keep them from coming in that way, especially until some grass is growing on the top of this. That way they're not going to just destroy the dam that we paid good money to have built. And speaking of the money, having this redug was not near as expensive as I was afraid it might be. So the guys that came and did the forestry mulcher did this. I had them come and look at it and give me an estimate, and they got it all done in one day. And they didn't have to go get big heavy equipment like bulldozers and stuff. They were able to do it all with just that track hoe and that kind of skid steer thing. And it cost us just a little over $2,000 to get this dug out. And so I had debated about renting some equipment and trying to do it myself, but the honest truth on that is I don't really know how to use a lot of that equipment, and so I think the learning curve would take me a lot longer to get it done, where I'd have to rent this equipment for multiple days, where I could just pay somebody that already has the equipment and knows how to do it and get it done in one day. So really happy with this. I wish it would rain a little bit more so we could get this thing filled up, but I think it's a good improvement to have here on the farm. Well, this pond here is several feet low. Usually water is kind of way up here to where I'm standing. This pond is looking fairly gross. It's been so hot and so dry, and it's just gets kind of ugly when it gets low. Well, Moose and Pepper should be having their calves here in just a little bit over 1 month, and then we should have a few more born slightly after that. So exciting times here on the farm, excited to get into the cooler weather time of the year. If you haven't already, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram by searching 100 Acre Wood Highlands. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.